Friends, now we have a masterclass by the master himself. The Indigenization and Barbell strategy, unleashing the power of collaboration and the growing ecosystem, shop-made and bought out to coexist. May I invite Mr. Ravi S Ramakrishnan, founder SSF Global, founder and executive chairman R-Value Group, to please come for this presentation, the masterclass. What do I say? With such a rich and varied experience that Ravi has, we are bound to take home a lot from his presentation. He's a seasoned global business and people's leader with 40 years of business, finance, and business services experience, a former business leader at American Express. He was an integral part of the global leadership team to set up its pioneering offshore operations in India in the mid-90s. He's held leadership positions in Unilever, Murugappa Group, and Aisha Group with CXO level responsibilities. He's been recognized as a visionary CEO and thought leader in business services. So it's over to you. Ravi, please come.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good evening to each one of you. I think really a little more. Very good evening to each one of you. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, I think when Rakesh said there's be a master class, I said, no, I'm a learner every day. You cannot be a master if you don't learn every day. I am actually reminded of one of my conversations in American Express way back when new leaders used to get promoted. And they used to come and ask me, Ravi, what are some of the thoughts you would like to share with me as new leader? So I used to tell them three things. I used to say that be a new leader every day. The moment you become an old leader or a mature leader, we'll talk about maturity as well today, you will never learn. Therefore, make sure that you are a new leader every day. The second one is learn to learn. Each one of us learn differently. And I think it's important for us to take that style of learning. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by interaction. I learn by interaction. So I think we need to learn every day what happens. And last but not the least, which I think has stood the ground for me right through, is learn to unlearn. So with those three lines of conversation, I think this is going to be, if I can use the word, the learner class beyond the master class. Okay. So I think, and I would like to again touch upon in a lighter vein, I think it talks about the whole new world. And I think it really feels so proud of what has happened in India over the last 25, 27 years. I think in a way, I would say we are actually standing in a land which is whole new world for shared services forum global, which is the Mahabalipuram. But having said that, I think there is really watch these two words, whole new world. It is not just said for the sake of giving a caption. So in that context is what I'm sharing my few thoughts, which I'm sure many people may contribute more. And the context is indigenization and Barbell strategy. I think I come from manufacturing. I started my career in levers, and I went to Murugappa Group, then I was in Aisha. So all through, I've been in manufacturing. So the term indigenization has stuck to me, and I feel that's very, very important. And what is happening today is indigenization of a different kind in the world of GCCs. And I think the proof of that indigenization is all leaders sitting here. The kind of power which we have in this audience. So I want this to be emphasized as we talk through in next 20 minutes. And there is an interesting connect to this, which is Barbell strategy. Actually, I don't know how many of you heard of Nazim Nicholas Taleb. He has been one of the guys who has provided a lot of new thinking, and his new thoughts came into front post-COVID, whether it's an anti-fragile strategy or the Barbell strategy. And he has written some 5 books, and anybody who is interested, please go through those power of 5 books. And he really picks up simple stuff to explain how things can be very different. Actually, India utilized the Barbell strategy during COVID because the challenge was to look at life and livelihood. How do we take care of both lives of people as well as livelihood for the people? It's a kind of a little bit, if you can think about an extreme, but that extreme was made possible by the government machinery thinking through how it can be made as a difference. So I'm going to touch upon Barbell strategy, but it's in a larger context. So in a way, I would say, what is this in summary? It's our power of the collaboration and the power of ecosystem, the growing ecosystem. I think that's very important for us to recognize. Again, I will give some examples from manufacturing world, how the ecosystem is something which is an integral part of the industry. I think it's very important for us to appreciate, like, if you talk of companies like Tata Motors, they will easily be able to relate with that. Many of the, manufacturing companies can easily talk about what this ecosystem is all about. So I'm going to connect the dots in terms of how we are trying to look at it. But given that there is a reference to the context, I just thought I will pick up something which is very simple to give a connect to today's conversation. I would say sometime, almost like 20 years back or 30 years back, I read this book of Kenichi Ome. The book is called In the Mind of the Strategist, and in which he talks about 3 C's. And 3 C's is no big, rocket science for us to figure out. I don't know how many of you can say many of the C's, some C's from some of you. What could be the 3 C's of a strategy? Sorry? Customer. Who else? 1 C is customer, obviously. Competition. Okay. 1 more. And I would go beyond to say competition, because we are now, and today that's a context we will talk about. In the old world of GCCs, we will talk about competence, because that's what we talk about from just a talent point of view. But today, the talent is going to talk about business. No longer they will talk about just the process. So they need to understand, even if I'm sitting 2,500 miles away, to understand my company's customer, my GCC's customer, I think we need to be able to relate with. So it's in that context, what is the competition doing? So 1 C is customer, 2nd C is competition, and 3rd C is really corporation, which is our company, whatever you call it. So company, competition, customer. These are the 3 C's which Kenichi Ome talked about as a strategic triangle. He used to call it a strategic triangle. And today, in the last 5 years, the world has changed. Strategy has changed, and strategy has become today, same 3 will continue. Some people, of course, say cost instead of corporation, but I think that is limiting to a particular context. Company has much larger context than just a cost. But the last C is very simply collaboration. Today, nothing can happen without collaboration. So take it from me. This is one of my single largest learning. Not today, again from the manufacturing world, which continues, but still I think our GCCs are not practicing enough. I think we are still thinking of what I would call very quickly about the old world captive. I need to do everything. I need to do all. Today, the world has completely changed. That's how manufacturing also started. When the licensing Raj was there, I had to do everything. But then when we started moving beyond and liberalization happened, we had to actually collaborate. So there is a huge power of collaboration, which is now integral part of the strategy. And I would really recommend that the whole new world of GCCs will recognize collaboration. And we'll talk about what kind of collaboration and why, and what is the nature of collaboration. But as we move forward, the power is the ecosystem collaboration is integral to strategy. There is no way that we can think that, oh, I will do all this and I will collaborate when I get time. Or when I have no other choices, I'll collaborate. No. Collaboration today is part of the strategy, and each one of us have to imbibe this in the world of GCCs. I just thought it'll be useful to quickly, kind of get a context. Of the new world GCCs, how they're defined as. Because I thought I should just bring a quick context. It is really exclusive, but it is not exclusive just by itself, it's integrated. See the kind of connections which is happening. Exclusive, integrated, innovation-led centers. That is very important. That is just not competence, it's much beyond that. Established with external expertise. I know that we all set up our centers with our own hands and so on. Even today, a lot of centers, but I think the last 3 years, a lot of centers are being set up by experts who have had many years of experience in the world of GCCs to set up. Why? They can bring speed, they can bring scale, they can bring everything very quickly. We all learned it by creating the rule books. But today, I think rule books are possible. When I say rule books, they're contextualized rule books. They're not that, okay, I used to say this, in the world of GCCs, BIC to BIC is our famous mantra, we call it as best in class to best in context. We have to have our context absolutely clear. What works for one FMCG may not work for another FMCG. What works for one bank will not work for another bank. Because I'm in that context, I would have figured HSBC and Bank of America are two different banks. Their compliance philosophy, their approach to banking, everything is different. So it's important for us to realize, contextualized, and this external expertise will really look at that, and it becomes a springboard. How quickly can I scale up? And what kind of metrics can I work with? Actually, one of the companies I would say, one of the GCCs was set up. They really set up the GCC, it is AB and Bev. They really set up the GCC with an objective of contributing to the company's bottom line. As a starting point when they set up the GCC, not cost reduction. That, of course, is given. The reason why I'm saying is there is a lot of power, but they really used external expertise to set it up, to start with. But they really made a huge difference as they went forward. Offshore locations, of course, in India. But I think, as Atul was talking about, there are opportunities for us to even look at how can onshore locations can also be explored in addition to offshore locations so that we're able to take care of the emotions. And it's not that finally it has to bring growing sustainable value. That's the power of a GCC. So it has got 5 big elements: exclusive, integrated, innovation-led, external expertise as a springboard, and growing sustainable value. And the next one actually talks in detail in terms of what each of these 5 elements are. I'm not right now going to go through in time. If somebody were giving me a couple of hours, I would have possibly walked through this. But it's exactly what I was sharing with you just before. But I think the key is, one important power is that it's all about focusing on business outcomes. If we're to be talking about one thing which is able to make a difference, it is how do we focus on business outcomes. It is no longer about cost reduction. It is no longer about process efficiency, process excellence only. They're all already existing. But I think the power is all about business. I used to say that in the words business process management, process is only a middle name. Business is the first name. And if we forget about business, we will not be able to do a proper process management at all. So it's important for us to remember that kind of a context. So why collaborate with ecosystem? I think in our context, I thought it's important to reflect. There's a huge shift in the GBS space. And I'll give you one example of that in the next slide, just to give you a context. But it's so huge that it encompasses much larger area. It is not just about what the center does. Actually, the term even GCC, or as a matter of fact, I would say the terms GIC and GCCs were actually coined by our research partners, Everest Group. And I know how closely they were working with the NASSCOM to create that. Having said that, GIC was quite simple because it was global in-house center. Because you're just describing what it was, and we will give you an example of how it evolved. But GCC is not like this global capability center. Sometimes I feel that by renaming themselves, they think they will become capability centers. No, I think there's a whole new world which has to happen to become capability centers. So that change is there. Second one, most important, once upon a time, people used to talk about shared services or GBS. Take the non-core processes out, and you can focus on core business. That was once upon a time. Today, it is not true. Today, you really bring core processes as well into the GCC. And I think it's very important for us. And whatever processes we do in our GCC, it has to be very closely connected with the headquarters. And we will talk a little bit about it in terms of how does it really happen. So this is the first one. Second one, good is not good enough. I think even in the theme of the conclave, we are talking about good to great. Good to great is absolutely given today, and good to great, of course, is a term which was coined by Jim Collins 25 years back when he wrote this book called Built to Last. But I think even today it's absolutely valid. Only thing some people caution us is when you become great, don't think you cannot be good. You have to have goodness as you achieve greatness. It is not that by hook or crook you achieve greatness. So that's the only thing I want to caution. But I think because ethics is so critical. Just to give you some examples of today, self-service portals in many of the GCCs at the advanced stage are not for downloading reports. They are actually enabling, simplifying the complex data into decision-making opportunities. So GCCs help not downloading reports, but actually enabling decision-making. That's the power. Or if you take, with BFSI being a large component of our GCCs, I would say that risk management, fraud detection, regulatory compliance. These three are very, very critical for many of these BFSI companies. But quite often they are seen in silos, not necessarily. Risk management is done by one team, fraud detection is done by another team, and regulatory compliance by the third team. But that's not the new world of GCC. The new world of GCC is proactive connection between all the three, by which we're able to achieve the business outcome. I think that's very important. This is a very simplistic statement, again, coming from the world of manufacturing, and I come from the world of brand management in in Hindustan Lever. I don't know how many of you have heard of this product life cycle. And today when we talk to GCC, they say, oh, I'm a mature GCC. You know, I've got everything. You talk about startup, I'm there. Talk about technology, I'm there. Talk about AI, I'm there. So they take pride in being the mature GCCs. I would like to say, yes, be proud, but the stage after maturity in the product life cycle is decline. If people are going to get complacent with maturity, it will only decline. That's why there's an ecosystem which is required. I'm just trying to remind ourselves once again that there's a need for that. Which is why it is saying, when we talk about the team, it is not just now, but next and new. And how can we continuously look at it is what is important. Out of 100 GCCs today, 25 GCCs cut the higher value chain of processes. We know that very well. But even in those 25 GCCs, there are huge opportunities to make a difference. Do you conduct research? Do you benchmark yourself as to what can be done differently? Research and benchmarking is so crucial. And we'll talk about what is the ecosystem we are talking about. Digital twins, actually, this is one important thing, that the GCC is not another center. Actually, it's going to be called as a hub. Headquarters and GCCs will mirror each other in terms of strategies, technology, culture, everything. And earlier it used to be culture, but today it is strategy and technology, both. All the three have to be aligned together. And that has to unify the enterprise. It is not that I become a partner. I think the word partner has gone beyond now. Today, the GCCs have to become, how can they unify the enterprise in the way we are talking about? And so what happens? The ecosystem provides these three things: speed, scale, success. And I think these three S are most important for driving business outcomes. I think it is not just about, even value delivery. I remember when we talk about value-added services, it's value-added services. I think it's important for us to look at how do we drive business outcome at the end of the day. So I just want to give a quick one slide on tectonic shift, because I think it's important for people to get a sense. Where we started, I know 25 years back, we started as resource centers. We call it a financial resource center when American Express started. Many of the people here might be able to appreciate. Then there was shared services, GBS, global in-house center, then GBS, and today GCC. So it's not just terminology is changing. I think particularly as we cut from GBS to GCC, there's a huge shift. I think in the last 3 years, the activity in India has been so high. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how many of you have been in touch. I think there is hundreds of companies, hundreds of centers are being set up with external expertise. Now, what is the scape? Landscape is huge. It's become core to enterprise, second headquarters. It's no longer non-core or staff function support. ER&D, for instance, today ER&D is growing very, very high. ER&D is growing because of manufacturing companies. British Petroleum, Shell, General Motors, they're all having their design centers here. ER&D is growing hugely. I don't know, many of you may not have ER&D. And one of the things we want to make sure is we become integrated ER&D, because that's a power which you can have. India is the GCC capital of the world today. And I think that's where I was wanting to talk about this audience. If we are able to revitalize, reset ourselves today, there's a huge opportunity. I think in my mind, we have the capability which no one in the world can match. And I can say that with a lot of pride. Everyone here can make a difference if we can only think that way and start building that kind of an opportunity. So it's indigenized. That's why talking about indigenization, I was saying that the key is we're already indigenized. I think in my mind, if somebody were to talk about GCC, it's India. If they want expertise, it is India, you know. So I think there is no doubt of the power of the capabilities we have today in the way the expertise is there. And last but not the least is, again, manufacturing experience. People used to kind of not do everything all in their backyard. They really have a mix of what they will do in-house, what they will do third party, what they will do subcontract. I still remember, I'm just talking about years back, Hindustan Lever used to prepare sunlight, big cakes, used to be sent outside, it should be cut into cakes, and used to come back to Hindustan Lever to be sold in the marketplace. Because the cutting was not something which we had to do, because it can be done by anybody. I'm just saying that. So it's like that. Assembly finally will be done by the GCC, but the GCC must be able to see the entire spectrum. All areas will work towards. Actually, that's one of the reasons why today the GCCs have got an edge over even major BPOs. Not because major BPOs are not capable, they're highly capable. But I think the power is, can they unify the enterprise? That's the question. GCCs can unify the enterprise, but BPOs are not finding it that easy to unify the enterprise. That's why they're having an edge over BPOs, and I think BPOs are also trying to find, as you know, many of you know, that Accenture has partnered with the ANSR in that context today. So I think, so GCC and BPO are no longer alternatives, and they coexist with GCCs gaining lead over BPOs. So if I have to kind of summarize, to give a quick context, what is the ecosystem? It has got all. GCC hub is at the center. You have expertise, talent alignment, tech partners, startups, BPOs, industry platform like ours, research and benchmark. All our ecosystem which we have to be fully aligned with to collaborate. So that, you know, each one doesn't walk away with their own mindset of ecosystem. I thought it's important to highlight. And therefore, to talk about the integrating the ecosystem, the power of the Barbell strategy, given all this context, Barbell is simple. You know, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you still go to the gym. Barbell is the one which we lift. There's two ends are heavy, and that's how it is. It is not about, it's not about giving one balance. It's about giving a balance between both the context here on the right side and the left side, and therefore you can lift it. Similarly, therefore the context is all about what we call as coexistence, not just a balance. So if you really see it, investment, Barbell is an investment strategy that Taleb talked about. And he talked about how people can invest in the extremes of safe and risky investments. And if you're able to do that, you are able to take the return off capital with the safe one and return on capital for the risky ones. And you need to have that combination, which is very important. Picking from the time-tested manufacturing strategy for enterprise alignment is the real power of how do we look at the shop made and the bought out. And the last one is interdependent enterprise. So this is how the world of ecosystem and the Barbell strategy works. Build a power of conservatism and risky approach. Risky is actually innovation. Innovation-led. If you're not innovation-led, actually people say you have to disrupt yourself. If you don't disrupt yourself, you're not going to be there for future. So disruption is risky. So people think, oh, Ravi, what do you mean by risky for GCCs? Can you disrupt what you are doing today is the most important thing. Shop made versus bought out, or shop made and bought out? How do you do what we need to distribute between what you do and what happens outside? And cutting across functions, I talked about it. It's not just about silos, it's cutting across functions and geos, which is interdependent enterprise. So interconnected elements driving business outcomes and enterprise success. So given that, it is the either or has gone. Now it is coexistence. We need to make sure we coexist the power of captive and the third party together in the GCC. The GCC has to look at in totality. Combining, I actually use the term seeming extremes. They are not extremes, but we think they're extremes. But if we don't deal with that, you will not be able to continue in the new world of GCC. So given that, in summary, the new world of GCC is unifying the enterprise. And therefore, it is building a digital enterprise with disruption leadership. I think it's very important for us to remember to drive business outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there any questions for Ravi, sir?
Oh, I thought I exceeded my time, so I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Maybe just one or two.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Lean methodology, yes.
Hey, Pallavi.
Hello. So I'm Venkatesh from Hitachi Energy. So considering the industry experience that you have right now, I'm from a GIC setup where we do finance, and any core activity that you see apart from what we handle currently as part of this GCC setup. You mentioned that some core activities could be moved in the near future.
Yes.
So next and new. So can you give me in a couple of examples?
Yeah, so I think it's important for us to remember that, there are certain, supposing I just take, since you take finance, we all are quite familiar with reconciliation. But reconciliation is not a typical while people think it's non-core is what the non-value added activity is non-core. But the value added activity brings a lot of control. If you don't have reconciliation, you will not have integrity of the company's balance sheet. So we actually said, we actually renamed the team's name, and V.V. Ranganathan is here. We renamed the reconciliation team to financial integrity team. So it became part of the core. So to that extent, I would say I was sharing with someone that we thought of building the capabilities 20 years back in American Express, not today, because we felt that our yardstick should be make sure that your cost to the company is zero, which means we will deliver business impact, business outcome every year. So to your point, actually, there has been a session that in today's world, technology is business. Same way, there are a lot of people, including proponents like us, which say finance is business. Only thing is, people should not mix up with accounting. Accounting is one kind of story that is past, but finance is futuristic. So if you're able to link the financial decisions with the business decision, which decision is not, actually I used to say the cusp of finance and business is commercial. Commercial decisions are the most important ones today. People want quarter after quarter results in the US, right? So to me, finance is very close to business. Yes, there are certain parts of accounting which can be streamlined, automated, AI can be implemented, etc., etc. But I would really recommend that no longer finance is non-core. There is some portion which has to be automated, but there is a huge portion which has to be linked to the business, and that's the only way you can make the business outcome actually come. And there are any number of examples, which, for instance, I'm just giving an example, taking an accounts payable metric, looking at what are the cost purchase orders, are they purchasing all, I'm just telling an example, computers are bought by GCCs across the globe. We have seen just by comparing the cost of purchase of these computers, we could save $1 million in 1 year. So the point I'm saying is that there is a huge potential. Yes, please focus on process, but make sure there's a focus on business. If you focus on business, it becomes core. If you just focus on process, it is maybe sub-core or non-core. But non-core is non-value added. You don't need to have that, right? Wherever it is, even in the best of businesses, you don't need it.
Thank you.
One last question, maybe?
Thanks, Ravi. It's not a question per se. I'm just trying to bring it make it more contextual. When we talk about India GCCs, this collaboration power is even more important.
Absolutely. I think thanks for bringing it up. I would 100% agree, and thanks, Ajay, for talking about it. I think, the single largest, what he means by India GCC is not just offshore GCCs, but GCCs set up by Indian corporations. And I have spent 20 years doing that, in addition to GCCs of offshoring and also India. And the talking about integrating strategy, integrating technology, integrating culture, it all happens here on a real-time basis. So I think it's absolutely well said, Ajay, that I wanted to make sure I reconfirm. It's not just about offshore. It is about India GCCs as much. India is in the leading front to set up. Only thing is make sure that you are setting up a GCC in India. If you are going to set up a centralization, then you're lost again. But people should look at India GCCs. And I think companies like Tata Motors have done a huge difference. They can look at supply chain, they can look at connecting supply chain with the procurements, whole lot of stuff. I completely echo that thought.
Oh, thanks for covering that aspect, because
No, absolutely. Thanks
business
for-
leaders are not ready to listen that you will take over the job and you will do better. How you will do integrated, what will be eliminated, what you will do better,
Absolutely.
and what I'll gain. So that's the
Very-
value addition which we need.
Absolutely. So on a happy note, and of course I'm here today, tomorrow, anytime, please feel free to ask me any questions. I'll be quite happy to share my learnings, and I'm sure maybe I'll pick something from you.